The gray sickness spread across planet Cathera like hungry fire. Emperor Zixthala watched from his palace window as the last green fields turned into writhing gray mass. The sickness ate everything it touched. Trees, rocks, buildings, people, nothing could stop it. His mighty empire that ruled dozens of star systems was dying world by world. General Krevnock entered the throne room with heavy steps. His armor was dull and his face showed defeat. He had just returned from the outer worlds where the sickness first appeared. 3 more planets were gone. The Grey Death consumed them completely in just 2 days. "My Emperor, our weapons do nothing," Krevnock said with a broken voice. "The plasma cannons, the fusion bombs, even our strongest shields. The Grey Death just eats through them. It learns from every attack and grows stronger. Our scientists say it thinks like a living thing but moves like a plague." Zixthala turned from the window. His golden skin had turned pale with worry. For 300 years, his people had ruled this part of the galaxy. They were the strongest, the smartest, the most advanced. Other species feared them or served them. Now something was killing his empire, and he could do nothing to stop it. "How long before it reaches the capital?" the Emperor asked. 6 days, maybe 7, Krevnock answered. "It moves faster now. Each world it eats makes it stronger. We have maybe 1 million people left in the entire empire. Everyone else is gone." The Emperor sat down heavily on his crystal throne. His empire was dying and he was helpless. He had sent messages to other alien species asking for help, but most of them hated the Veltharans. His people had conquered and enslaved too many worlds. Now in their time of need, no one would answer. "Sir," a young officer ran into the room. "The archive masters found something. Old records from the Forbidden Vaults. They say there might be help." Hope flickered in the Emperor's eyes. "Show me." They went deep into the palace archives where ancient data crystals held the history of the galaxy. Master Archivist Veltar stood before a glowing display. His old hands shook as he pointed to strange symbols. "These records are 5,000 years old," Veltar said. "They speak of the Grey Death appearing before in distant times. But they also mention something else. A world of warriors in the far spiral arm, a place called Earth. The records say these humans defeated the Grey Sickness once before." Krevnock laughed bitterly. "Earth, those primitive mammals? We sent them demands to surrender 50 years ago. They ignored us completely. Their technology is centuries behind ours. They have only one small system and no real military." "The records say otherwise," Veltar insisted. "They describe Earth as the home of warrior guardians who protect the galaxy from ancient evils. The humans may look weak, but they have hidden strength." Emperor Zixthala stared at the ancient text. His pride screamed against asking help from humans. The Veltharans had always seen themselves as superior to all other life. But his people were dying. Soon his empire would be nothing but gray dust floating in space. "Send the message," he said quietly. "Sir?" Krevnock could not believe what he heard. "Send a message to Earth," the Emperor said louder. "Tell them we are dying. Ask for their help. I do not care about pride anymore. If there is any chance they can save my people, I will beg if I must." The message went out across the dark space between stars. It traveled for days through hyperspace networks until it reached the edge of human territory. The signal was simple but desperate. "This is Emperor Zixthala of the Veltharan Empire. An ancient evil consumes our worlds. Our people face extinction. We ask for help. Please answer." On Earth, deep in the military command center in Colorado, Admiral Jack Morrison read the message 3 times. He was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. He had spent 30 years protecting Earth and human colonies from dangers others never saw. His officers gathered around him as news of the alien distress call spread. "Sir, the Veltharans demanded our surrender 50 years ago," Captain Linda Hayes said. "She commanded one of Earth's most powerful warships. They called us primitive animals. They said we were not worth their notice. Why should we help them now?" Commander Paul Johnson pulled up data on his screen. "The plague they describe matches ancient records in our databases. If it spreads beyond their territory, it could threaten the entire galaxy. This is not just about saving the Veltharans. This is about stopping something that could kill everything." Dr. Helen Roberts stepped forward. She was Earth's top expert on alien diseases and cosmic threats. "I have studied similar phenomena for 20 years. This Grey Death is not natural. It is a weapon created by an ancient civilization. If we do not stop it now, it will consume world after world until nothing is left alive in this galaxy." Admiral Morrison looked at each of his officers. These were good people who had sworn to protect not just Earth but all innocent life everywhere. The Veltharans had been enemies, but they were still living beings who deserved a chance to survive. "Prepare the Supreme Fleet," Morrison ordered. "All ships, all crews. We leave for Veltharan space immediately." "Sir, are you sure?" Hayes asked. "This could be a trap. The Veltharans might be lying to lure our fleet into their territory." Morrison shook his head. "No trap. I can hear the fear in their message. They are truly desperate, and if Dr. Roberts is right, this threat could reach Earth eventually. Better to stop it now while we can." Across Earth's solar system, the call went out. Ships that had been hidden in asteroid fields and behind moons began to move. Massive battleships emerged from secret bases on Mars. Cruisers and destroyers left their hiding places in the outer planets. The true size of Earth's military had been kept secret for generations. The humans had learned long ago that showing all your strength invited attack. Better to appear weak while building power in secret. Now that power would be revealed to save their former enemies. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought Indomitable Spirit. Around him, thousands of Earth's finest ships prepared for the journey to Veltharan space. They would answer the call for help. They would face the ancient evil that threatened all life, and they would show the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of when others needed saving. The Veltharan detection system screamed warnings across the capital ships. Something massive was approaching through hyperspace. General Krevnock rushed to the command center where his officers stared at screens showing impossible readings. "Sir, we are detecting a fleet approaching our outer system," reported Commander Thexval. "But the size readings cannot be correct. Our computers show over 3,000 ships." Krevnock looked at the display and felt his heart skip. 3,000 ships was larger than his entire empire's military at its peak. "Are you certain these readings are accurate?" "Yes, sir. And sir, the lead ships are emerging from hyperspace now." On the main screen, space itself seemed to tear open. Bright flashes of light announced ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. The first vessel to appear made every Veltharan officer freeze in shock. It was enormous. Their largest battleship was like a small boat compared to this massive dreadnought. More ships followed, hundreds than thousands. Sleek destroyers moved with impossible grace. Heavy cruisers bristled with weapons the Veltharans had never seen. Mobile space fortresses hung in formation like moving cities. The human fleet stretched across space in perfect lines. "By the ancient gods," Krevnock whispered. "How did we not know? How did we miss this?" Emperor Zixathala arrived at the command center still wearing his sleeping robes. The alarms had woken him from restless sleep. When he saw the display showing the human fleet, he could only stare in amazement. These were the primitive mammals his people had dismissed as worthless. "They answered," he said quietly. "The humans answered our call." A communication signal came from the lead human ship. The voice that spoke was calm and professional. "This is Admiral Jack Morrison of the Earth Supreme Fleet, commanding the vessel Indomitable Spirit. We received your distress call, Emperor Zixthala. We request permission to enter your space and offer assistance." The Emperor looked around at his officers. Many of them had been present 50 years ago when they sent demands to Earth. They had expected the humans to surrender immediately or be destroyed. Instead, Earth had simply ignored them. Now these same humans were offering help in the Empire's darkest hour. "Permission granted, Admiral Morrison," Zixthala replied. "Welcome to what remains of our empire." The human fleet moved into Veltharan space with discipline that impressed even Krevnock. Each ship knew exactly where to go. Their formations were flawless. No wasted movement, no confusion. These humans fought like they had been doing it for centuries. Admiral Morrison's shuttle docked with the Veltharan flagship an hour later. When the airlock opened, Krevnock was surprised by what he saw. The human admiral was tall but not imposing. He wore a simple uniform with few decorations. His gray hair and lined face showed age and experience, but his eyes were sharp and kind. "Emperor Zixathala," Morrison said with a respectful bow, "I am sorry for the loss your people have suffered. We are here to help in any way we can." The Emperor studied the human carefully. This was not what he had expected. Where was the arrogance? Where were the demands for surrender? Morrison spoke like one leader to another, showing respect despite the Veltharan Empire's past hostility. "Admiral Morrison, I must ask," Zixthala said. "Your fleet is enormous. Your technology appears far beyond ours. Why did you never reveal this power? When we demanded your surrender, you could have destroyed us easily." Morrison smiled sadly. Because destroying you would have served no purpose. Humans learned long ago that showing all your strength invites unnecessary conflict. We prefer to build quietly and help others when needed. War should always be the last choice, not the first. Dr. Helen Roberts entered the meeting room carrying several data tablets. She was a middle-aged woman with intelligent eyes and steady hands. Behind her came Captain Linda Hayes, a younger officer with the confident bearing of someone used to command. Dr. Roberts has been studying the data you provided about the Grey Death, Morrison explained. She has some important information to share. Roberts activated a holographic display showing the plague's spread pattern. Your people are facing something that should not exist, she said. This Grey Death is not a natural disease. It is an ancient weapon created by a civilization that died millions of years ago. They called it their final gift to the universe. Krevnock leaned forward. You have seen this before? Not exactly, Roberts replied. But we have found traces of similar weapons throughout the galaxy. Ancient civilizations that chose to destroy everything rather than accept defeat. This particular plague has been sleeping in deep space for eons. Something woke it up recently. Can it be stopped? Emperor Zixithala asked with desperate hope. Roberts nodded. Yes, but it will not be easy. The plague has a central consciousness hidden somewhere in the infected zones. If we can locate and destroy that core intelligence, the entire network will collapse. But reaching it will require going directly into the heart of the contaminated area. Captain Hayes stepped forward. My ship, Freedom's Edge, has advanced sensors designed for this type of mission. We can penetrate the infected zones and map the plague's structure. With your fleet providing support, we can find this central core. The Emperor looked at these humans who had come to save his people. Why? He asked quietly. Why risk your lives for us? We showed you nothing but contempt. We called you primitive. We threatened your world. Why help your enemies? Admiral Morrison was quiet for a moment before answering. Because it is the right thing to do. Because no one deserves to die alone in the dark. And because today you are not our enemies. You are people in need of help. And that is all that matters. Tears formed in the Emperor's eyes. In all his centuries of life, no one had ever shown him such kindness without expecting something in return. These humans could have left his empire to die. They could have demanded payment or territory. Instead, they offered their lives freely to save people who had once been their enemies. What do you need from us? Zixithala asked. Complete cooperation, Morrison replied. Your knowledge of the affected systems, your remaining ships to support our operations, and your trust. We are stronger together than apart. General Krevnock stood straighter. You will have everything we can provide, Admiral. Our ships, our soldiers, our lives if necessary. We owe you a debt that can never be repaid. Morrison shook his head. You owe us nothing. Helping others in need is not a transaction. It is simply what decent people do for each other. As the meeting continued, planning began for the assault on the Grey Death. The combined human and Veltheran fleets would work together to penetrate the infected zones and locate the plague's source. It would be dangerous work that might cost many lives. But for the first time since the crisis began, there was hope. Outside the meeting room windows, the human fleet hung in space like guardian angels. Ships that could have conquered the galaxy instead chose to protect it. The Veltherans were learning that true strength was not about having the biggest weapons or the most territory. True strength was about choosing to help others even when it cost you everything. Commander Paul Johnson stood before the largest holographic display the Veltherans had ever seen. The three-dimensional map showed the entire infected region of space where the Grey Death had consumed 12 worlds. Red zones marked areas of complete contamination while yellow showed the advancing plague fronts. The pattern is clear, Johnson explained to the mixed human and Veltheran command staff. The plague is not spreading randomly. It moves with purpose, always choosing the most populated worlds first. It wants to consume as much life as possible before we can stop it. General Krevnock studied the display with growing admiration for human tactical thinking. Your analysis shows things our computers missed. We focused on stopping the plague but never considered its strategy. You are correct. It hunts deliberately. Captain Linda Hayes entered the war room carrying fresh sensor data from her scouting missions. Her ship Freedom's Edge had been probing the edges of infected space for 3 days, gathering intelligence while avoiding direct contact with the plague. The outer infected zones are worse than we thought, Hayes reported. The plague has not just consumed the planets. It has built structures in space using the absorbed matter, massive organic constructs that pulse with energy. They look almost like enormous brains connected by tendrils of gray matter. Dr. Helen Roberts looked up from her research tablet with excitement. That confirms my theory. The Gray Death is not just a weapon, it is a thinking organism. Every world it consumes adds to its intelligence and memory. It is learning about us even as we study it. Emperor Zixathala felt a chill of fear. You mean it knows we are here? It knows we are planning to attack it? Almost certainly, Roberts replied. But that also gives us an advantage. If it is truly intelligent, then it has weaknesses. All thinking beings have a central consciousness, a core self that controls the rest. If we can find and destroy that core, the entire network should collapse. Admiral Morrison studied the tactical display with the eye of a veteran commander. The question is, how do we locate this core consciousness? The infected zone covers 12 star systems. It could be hidden anywhere in that vast area. Hayes pointed to a section of the map that glowed brighter red than the rest. My sensors detected unusual energy readings from the Ketharan system, the first place the plague appeared. The power levels there are 10 times higher than anywhere else. If I had to guess, that is where the core intelligence hides. Cathara Prime was the most advanced world in our empire, Krevnock said sadly. 50 million people lived there. Our greatest scientists, our finest artists, our most brilliant minds. If the plague absorbed all of that knowledge and creativity, then it is incredibly dangerous now, Morrison finished. But it also means we know where to strike. Commander Johnson, what kind of force would we need to penetrate that system? Johnson worked quickly on his tactical computer. The infected zone will be heavily defended. The plague knows we are coming and has had time to prepare. I recommend a three-pronged assault. One force to draw its attention, a second to provide covering fire, and a small strike team to punch through to the core. What about our weapons? Asked Commander Thexval, the senior Vaeltharan tactical officer. Our plasma cannons and fusion torpedoes have been useless against the plague. How can we fight something that absorbs energy? Dr. Roberts smiled for the first time since arriving. That is where human technology helps. We have spent decades developing quantum disruptor weapons specifically designed to fight cosmic threats like this. Our ships carry weapons that attack matter at the molecular level, breaking the bonds that hold the plague together. She activated another display showing the internal structure of human warships. Every vessel in our fleet has quantum torpedo launchers and disruptor beam arrays. We can hurt this thing, but we need your knowledge of the local space and your remaining ships to provide support. Krevnock stepped forward with new determination. You will have everything we can provide. Our remaining fleet is small, but our crews are experienced. We know these star systems better than anyone. If you can show us how to modify our weapons with your quantum technology, we will fight alongside you. Over the next 2 days, human and Vaeltharan engineers worked together to upgrade the alien weapons. The process required completely new thinking for both species. Humans had to adapt their technology to Vaeltharan energy systems. Vaeltharans had to accept that their advanced science was not as sophisticated as they had believed. Captain Hayes found herself working closely with Vaeltharan ship commanders, teaching them human tactical formations. Your ships are built for direct assault, she explained to Captain Morden of the Vaeltharan cruiser Storm Talon. Human ships are designed for flexibility. We use speed and coordination instead of just firepower. Morden watched human fighters perform incredible maneuvers around his ship. Your pilots fly like they are dancing instead of fighting. How do they maintain such precise control? Practice and trust, Hayes replied. Each pilot knows exactly what their wingmates will do. We train together until we move like one mind controlling many bodies. Individual skill matters, but teamwork wins battles. The cooperation between the two species grew stronger each day. Human doctors worked with Vaeltharan medics to treat wounded survivors from the plague zones. Vaeltharan scientists shared their deep knowledge of local space phenomena, while human researchers explained quantum physics principles. Emperor Zixathala watched the joint operations with growing wonder. General, look at how they work together. Humans and Vaeltharans solving problems as equals. When did we become so arrogant that we forgot other species could teach us things? Krevnock nodded thoughtfully. We conquered so many worlds that we started believing we were naturally superior. But these humans show us a different way. They could have dominated the galaxy long ago, but they chose cooperation over conquest. Perhaps that is why they are truly strong. Admiral Morrison called the final strategy meeting as the combined fleet prepared to move toward the infected zones. We have one chance to end this threat, he told the assembled commanders. The plague will throw everything it has at us. Many of us may not return, but if we succeed, we save not just the Valtharan Empire, but potentially the entire galaxy. Admiral, Captain Morden spoke up, I want you to know that fighting beside humans has been an honor. Whatever happens in the battle ahead, you have already saved us by showing us what we could become. You have given us hope. Morrison looked around the room at the faces of both species, all united in common purpose. The honor is ours, Captain. Today we fight not as humans or Veltharans, but as guardians of life itself. The plague chose to destroy. We choose to protect and preserve. That choice makes all the difference. The combined fleet moved out toward the infected zone with perfect coordination. Human and Veltharan ships flew in integrated formations, their different technologies working together like instruments in an orchestra. Behind them, they left a small group of worlds that had learned the true meaning of cooperation. Ahead lay a battle that would determine the fate of all life in the galaxy. As they approached the edge of plague-controlled space, energy readings spiked across all sensors. The Grey Death knew they were coming and was preparing its defenses. Soon the real test would begin, not just of their weapons and tactics, but of their newfound alliance and shared determination to protect the innocent from an ancient evil that had already consumed too much. The Catharan system looked like a vision from a nightmare, where 12 planets had once orbited a yellow star. Now only gray writhing masses remained. The plague had consumed everything and reshaped it into massive organic structures that pulsed with sick light. Tendrils of infected matter stretched between the corrupted worlds like veins in some enormous diseased body. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of indomitable spirit as the combined fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the system's edge. His officers reported what their sensors detected, but the readings seemed impossible. The plague had built structures larger than moons, connected by bridges of living matter spanning millions of kilometers. Sir, energy readings are off the scale, reported Lieutenant Carter from the sensor station. Whatever is powering those constructs is generating more energy than our entire fleet combined. And sir, the structures are moving. They are repositioning themselves as we watch. Captain Linda Hayes studied the tactical display on her ship Freedom's Edge. The plague had clearly been expecting them. The infected constructs were arranging themselves into defensive formations around what had once been Cathara Prime. The central world glowed brighter than the others, confirming their theory about the core consciousness. Admiral, this is Hayes, she reported over the fleet communication channel. My advanced sensors are detecting massive power buildups throughout the system. The plague is preparing to attack. We have maybe 10 minutes before it strikes first. General Krevnock watched from the Valtharan flagship as the infected system came alive with hostile activity. My people lived here, he said quietly to Emperor Zixathala. Billions of souls called this place home. Now their remains serve this abomination. The Emperor placed a hand on his general's shoulder. We will free them today. Whatever this plague has done to our people, we will make sure it ends here. Admiral Morrison promised us that, and I believe him. Morrison's voice came over all ship channels. All vessels prepare for engagement. Remember, our goal is not to destroy everything here, but to reach the central core on Cathara Prime. First wave will draw the plague's attention. Second wave provides covering fire. Strike team goes directly for the target. The battle began with a horror none of them had expected. The plague launched its own ships, vessels from dozens of extinct civilizations that had been consumed over the eons. Human, Valtharan, and alien designs from species no one recognized anymore, all twisted into new configurations and controlled by the Grey Death's will. Those are our ships, Krevnock gasped as he recognized Valtharan cruisers among the attacking fleet. The plague took our vessels and turned them against us. The infected ships moved with unnatural coordination. They sacrificed themselves without hesitation, ramming into human and Valtharan vessels while plague matter tried to spread across hull breaches. But the combined fleet was ready. Quantum disruptor beams cut through the infected ships, breaking the molecular bonds that held the plague together. Captain Hayes led her cruiser through the chaos with incredible skill. Her ship danced between enemy fire while her quantum torpedoes punched holes in the plague's defenses. This is Freedom's Edge to all units. The disruptors are working. Keep your distance and use focused beam attacks. Do not let the plague matter touch your hulls. Commander Paul Johnson coordinated the fleet's movements from his tactical station. Admiral, the plague is adapting faster than expected. It is learning our attack patterns and adjusting its defenses. We need to get the strike team through soon before it figures out how to counter our quantum weapons. Morrison made the decision that would define the battle. All ships, maximum assault on the outer defenses. Draw every plague vessel away from the center. Strike team, prepare for immediate departure. The strike team consisted of just 5 ships: Morrison's personal shuttle, Dr. Roberts' research vessel, 2 human fighters, and surprisingly, Emperor Zixthala's command ship. The Emperor had insisted on joining the mission despite all protests. "You should not be here," Morrison told the Emperor over their private channel as the small force raced toward Cathara Prime. "This mission is almost certainly suicide. Your people need you alive." "My people need me to lead," Zixthala replied firmly. "For too long I ruled from behind palace walls while others took the risks. Today I stand with those who fight for the innocent. Today I am worthy of the crown I wear." As they approached the central world, the plague's psychic defenses hit them like a physical blow. Dr. Roberts had warned them about this. The core consciousness would try to destroy their minds before they could destroy it. But she had underestimated the intensity of the mental assault. "Can't think straight," one of the fighter pilots gasped over the radio. "Something is trying to get inside my head. Images of everyone I ever loved dying. Can't shake them." Morrison felt the psychic attack as well. Visions of Earth burning, of his family screaming in pain, of humanity's destruction, all flooding his mind with terrifying clarity. But he had prepared for this. Human military training included mental discipline techniques developed over centuries of warfare. "Focus on your training," he ordered the strike team. "Remember who you are fighting for. The plague wants you to despair, but we choose hope. Push through the fear and remember why we are here." Emperor Zixthala struggled against visions of his empire's complete destruction, of every Valtharan he had ever known dying in agony. But then he thought of Admiral Morrison's words. "Today you are not our enemies. You are people in need of help." That kindness gave him strength to resist. The surface of Cathara Prime was a nightmare landscape of gray organic towers reaching toward space. But at the center, Dr. Roberts detected what they were looking for: a massive structure that pulsed with the rhythm of a giant heart. The core consciousness lived there, controlling the entire plague network across 12 star systems. "There," Roberts pointed at the central tower. "That structure is the nexus. If we can plant the quantum charges at its base, the chain reaction will disrupt the plague's molecular bonds throughout the entire network. But we have to get through those defenses first." The tower was protected by layers of infected matter that moved like living shields. Plague creatures launched themselves at the approaching ships. Twisted amalgamations of consumed life forms fused into new horrors. The strike team fought through waves of defenders while the psychic assault intensified. "Quantum charges armed and ready," Dr. Roberts reported as they reached the tower's base. "But I need 60 seconds to synchronize the detonation pattern." "Can you hold them off that long?" Morrison and Zixthala looked at each other through their ship view screens. Both men knew they might not survive the next minute. Around them, more plague creatures swarmed toward their position while the core consciousness screamed its rage directly into their minds. "It has been an honor fighting beside you, Emperor," Morrison said. "The honor is mine, Admiral," Zixthala replied. "Whatever happens, we face it together." The final 60 seconds felt like hours as they held their position against impossible odds. Human and Valtharan weapons fired in perfect coordination, creating a barrier of destruction around Dr. Roberts' ship while she completed the most important work of her life. When the charges were finally ready, both leaders knew their part in the story was nearly done. The quantum charges detonated in perfect sequence. Dr. Helen Roberts watched her life's work unfold as waves of molecular disruption spread outward from the plague's core consciousness. The effect was immediate and devastating to the Grey Death. Every infected structure began to dissolve as the bonds holding the plague matter together collapsed. "It's working," Roberts shouted over the chaos as her ship was thrown around by the massive energy release. "The chain reaction is spreading through the entire network. All plague structures across 12 star systems are breaking down simultaneously." Admiral Jack Morrison felt the psychic screaming of the core consciousness as it died. The ancient evil that had consumed countless civilizations was finally being destroyed, but the price was heavy. The explosion was tearing apart everything around them, including their own ships. "All strike team vessels. Emergency evacuation," Morrison ordered as his shuttle's hull began to crack under the stress. Get clear of the blast zone immediately. Emperor Zixathala's ship had taken critical damage while protecting Dr. Roberts during the final approach. His engines were failing and his hull was breached in multiple places. Admiral, my ship cannot escape the blast radius. Continue without me. Negative, Emperor. No one gets left behind. Morrison brought his shuttle alongside the damaged Valthuran vessel. Transfer your crew to my ship. We leave together or not at all. In those desperate minutes as Cathera Prime collapsed into normal matter, human and Valthuran crews worked together to save lives. Morrison's shuttle was overcrowded with refugees from the Emperor's ship, but everyone made it aboard before the final explosion consumed the plague's stronghold. Captain Linda Hayes coordinated the evacuation of the entire strike force from her position with the main fleet. Her tactical genius shone as she guided damaged ships through the collapsing system, while fighting off the last desperate attacks from dying plague creatures. Freedom's edge to all vessels. Hayes broadcast as the last ship cleared the danger zone. System collapse is accelerating. All units retreat to minimum safe distance and prepare for massive energy release. The death of the Grey Death was visible across half the galaxy. When the quantum disruption reached its peak, every infected world simultaneously reverted to normal matter. Billions of tons of consumed material that had been twisted into plague structures suddenly returned to their original molecular forms. The result was the largest release of energy ever recorded. General Krevnock watched in amazement as his sensors showed the plague's complete destruction. It is gone, all of it. 12 star systems are purified. The nightmare is over. But victory had come at a cost. Several ships had been lost in the final battle, and many brave souls from both species had sacrificed themselves to ensure the mission's success. Admiral Morrison himself was badly injured when his shuttle was caught in the edge of the quantum blast. Captain Hayes took command of the evacuation while medical teams fought to save his life. Dr. Roberts worked tirelessly in the medical bay, using her knowledge of both human and Valthuran biology to treat the wounded. He will live, she finally announced after 12 hours of surgery. Admiral Morrison will recover fully, though it will take time. As the combined fleet returned to Valthuran space, they found something wonderful waiting for them. The purified worlds were already showing signs of new life. Plants were growing in the enriched soil left behind by the plague's destruction. The consumed matter had been transformed into perfect conditions for biological renewal. Emperor Zixathala stood beside Morrison's medical bed as the Admiral slowly recovered consciousness. My friend, you have given my people something we thought was lost forever. A future. How can we ever repay such a debt? Morrison smiled weakly. You repay it by building something better than what came before. Your empire was strong, but it was built on conquest and fear. Now you have a chance to create something based on cooperation and hope. Over the following weeks, as Morrison recovered and the combined fleet established bases on the purified worlds, the relationship between humans and Valthurans grew into something unprecedented in galactic history. Two species that had been enemies became true partners. General Krevnock worked with Captain Hayes to establish joint military academies where both species could learn from each other. Valthuran discipline combined with human flexibility created new tactical doctrines that were more effective than either could achieve alone. Dr. Roberts became the galaxy's leading expert on cosmic threats. Her early warning systems, built with both human innovation and Valthuran precision, would prevent future catastrophes from catching anyone unprepared. Never again would an ancient weapon find the galaxy defenseless. Most importantly, the purified worlds became symbols of what cooperation could accomplish. Former Valthuran territories became joint colonies where humans and aliens worked side by side. Cities rose that blended the architectural genius of both species. Children grew up learning both languages and both cultures. 6 months after the battle, Admiral Morrison was fully recovered and back on duty. He stood with Emperor Zixthala on the observation deck of a new space station, orbiting what had once been Cathera Prime. The world below was green and blue again, teeming with new life. You know, Admiral, I have been thinking about something you said during the crisis the Emperor mentioned. You told me that showing all your strength invites unnecessary conflict, that humans prefer to build quietly and help when needed. I understand now why you are truly powerful. Morrison nodded. Strength is not about having the biggest weapons or controlling the most territory. Real strength comes from choosing to protect others even when it costs you everything. Your people have learned that lesson too. Indeed, my empire was built on making others fear us. But you showed us that it is better to make others trust us. Fear creates enemies. Trust creates allies. They watched as ships from dozens of species arrived at the station. Word of the great victory had spread throughout the galaxy, and other civilizations were coming to learn from the human-Veltheran alliance. Species that had never trusted each other were beginning to talk about cooperation. Captain Hayes joined them on the observation deck, carrying official documents that would change galactic history. "The Galactic Cooperative Alliance Charter is ready for signing," she announced. 17 species have already agreed to join. More are requesting membership every day. A galaxy united not by conquest but by choice. Zixthala mused. 6 months ago, I would have called such a thing impossible. Now it seems inevitable. Morrison signed the charter first, followed by the Emperor. As their signatures dried on the historic document, both leaders knew they had helped create something that would outlast their own lifetimes. The galaxy had learned that cooperation was stronger than competition, that helping others was more powerful than dominating them. Dr. Roberts interrupted their ceremony with exciting news. "Admirals, we have detected signals from beyond our galaxy. Other intelligent species in distant spiral arms are calling for help with their own cosmic threats. The Alliance's first mission may be to assist civilizations we have never even met." Morrison and Zixthala looked at each other and smiled. The Grey Death had been defeated, but their work was far from over. Somewhere in the vast universe, other peoples faced dangers they could not handle alone, and now they would not have to face those dangers alone. "Prepare the fleets," Morrison ordered. "Human, Veltheran, and all allied vessels. We have a galaxy to protect and a universe to explore. Today we learned that no one has to fight the darkness alone. Tomorrow we carry that lesson to the stars." As the great ships of the Alliance moved out toward unknown challenges, they carried with them the most powerful weapon in the universe, the knowledge that different peoples working together could overcome any threat. The galaxy had learned that when someone calls for help, heroes will answer, and sometimes those heroes come from the most unexpected places. Earth's supreme fleet had always been there, waiting quietly among the stars. Not as conquerors, but as guardians. When the darkness came, they answered the call, and in doing so, they proved that the greatest strength of all is choosing to help rather than to harm.